You're watching HFO-TV.
Hi, welcome back to HFO-TV. I'm Greg Frick, partner at HFO Investment Real Estate. And today we have Dave Moore. He is the CEO of Equity Advantage, a 1031 exchange facilitator. And we've had Dave on many times before. Thank you.
Thank you.
Today, we're here to discuss some potential national changes in the legislation on 1031. So welcome, Dave. And
thank you for having me. It's good to be here, as always.
Thank you. We've this has kind of been, you know, we've heard this before for the last, I'd say, 20 years. You always hear, oh, they're going to repeal this or repeal that. But it seems like there's more, I want to say, juice or momentum on this from both sides of the Washington aisle. And so maybe we can give a little insight on what's going on and kind of your take on it.
Sure. I just, I've, as you know, been involved with
Yes.
the business and used the process for more than 25 years. And you know, I got into the business because of the process, and I actually moved to Oregon because of the process. Right. So I think last time we were talking about state, you know, repealing it on a state level and talking about the vacuum that would create. And at that point, we were sort of in the throes of the recession still, and the
Yes.
market's definitely different. I think we're in a spot today where people are sort of like the proverbial monkey with the vines. They've got properties, they want a new property, they're not going to let go of the old one until they got the new one, and so things are really pretty tight that way. But for the first time ever, I think we've got a situation where we've got three different proposals, and from, like you said, both sides of the aisle. The
Specifically on 1031 exchange.
Well, on 1031s, and the thing we're really scared about is it's sort of getting buried. If we look at the House and Senate, it's going to get buried into the larger tax
Right.
reform issue, and we need to really do what we can to stop it before it gets there, because it'll get lost there. And so we've got three proposals: the House, the Senate, and I'm going to say this is sort of funny, but the most liberal of the three proposals is the one the Obama administration put out for their 2016 budget, and that one, the other two totally eliminate
Right.
1031 entirely. Or dramatically change it, and one of the changes would be a change in the definition of like kind, which would really be a tough thing for our people, given the fact that most people, I think, that you work with probably at some point, this is not something that's for the wealthy. This is for the everyday Joe, and I think that a lot of your clients probably start with a rental house at some point.
Rental house, duplex have slowly gone up, and yep.
Exactly. Maybe that rental house was originally their home even. So
Yes.
I mean, it's a way to build, a way to keep things going, and a way to keep that that work, that equity working for them. But the Obama proposal it's more liberal in that it doesn't eliminate 1031, but it caps the amount of tax deferral annually to $1 million, and then it would eliminate exchanges of collectibles and artwork, which we do a lot of high-end cars.
Right.
That whole world is going to be hurt dramatically, and we're at a point in time where people are looking for other things to make money on.
Right.
You can't just
everybody's chasing yield.
Exactly.
Yes.
You can't just have the money sitting in the bank. It's not working. So if you look at what's happening with the collectible car market right now, it's just going crazy. And tangible assets, inflationary hedges, all these things are working, and we're blessed to be working with real estate because
Yes.
I think it's a great time for it. But this would be something that would be potentially devastating.
And historically, I mean, we've heard these talks before, but typically it's coming from one side or the other. This is kind of the first time we've got all three branches, or not three branches, two branches, though one branch is split up in two. Yeah. So it's three sides all kind of converging on this topic now.
Well, exactly, and historically it's been sort of the Democrats proposing it and the Republicans fighting
Right.
it, and now we've got it from both sides.
Both sides, yes.
Yeah. So and like I said, I mean, the person that probably historically would be the most against it, most adverse to it, is the one that's got the most liberal approach to it. So it's a different time, and we were sort of talking about being scared, and it is a scary time because it's just the impacts on the economy, period, would be
Right.
devastating,
Right.
I think, on many levels.
Yes, I mean, I think it's scary. For a lot of our owners and investors, is the government's kind of looking at different places to generate revenue, and kind of looking at different. So you've done your planning for, your estate for your whole life, and this is kind of the way we're going to do it. And all of a sudden the rules change, and it's kind of a reset button. So there's a big concern, I know, on our end as well. I mean, another one just not dissimilar is, Oregon talking about reassessing taxes on sale, which is going to change the dramatics on valuations, transactions. So it's very alarming when you hear these things. And again, it's not crying. I think this one's a little bit more than a crying wolf syndrome from the standpoint we've heard this before for the last 20 years. This is the first time I've actually feeling it from a lot more investors. A lot more people are asking about it. And I was telling you the story. I've got a client that's making decisions now based on not being able to do exchanges in 2016.
Definitely.
I'm only, we've heard people talk about it. It's one of actually doing that in action. So it's very concerning from that standpoint in our business. If somebody wanted to get a hold of their congressman, is there a way, do you have not a political action committee, but a group that they can do that, or is there a way they can do that for?
Well, I think the best way to do it is just to reach out to the Federation of Exchange Accommodators. They've got a full segment of actually a full website that covers it, and it's great because it's got every state's representatives. You just plug in the state you live in, and it'll give you the representatives and form letters that you can customize as you'd like, and it makes it really easy for people to use, and it's got a lot of great information. It's got the proposals in length, and so you can sort of see the history of what's going on and why the government's trying to do what they're trying to do, and some talking points and some.
And the website's right down below, so that's where you can go for that. What I mean, maybe you can give a little bit. What are the specifics on kind of what they're proposing? I know Obama's got the one. It's capping it at $1 million. The other side is completely just getting it rid of completely.
Well, exactly. They would just eliminate 1031, and as I said, they look at it as an expense, and their numbers are way off, the industry believes, and the thing is that even if they were accurate, you're going to get one time you're going to have a big hit. The government will the first time there's a sale and a tax event, it's going to be a big one, but it's going to be based upon decreased numbers, because if you don't have the ability to exchange, you think about your clients, like we were saying, between the vines, if you're going to sell and realize a big tax because of that sale, you're probably not going to sell. A lot of people won't. And your choice, I mean, we've always looked at it, and you guys have a large pool of investors you've worked with over many years. And what do those people do each time? They sell and they do an exchange and into the next thing, and usually what are they doing? Usually they're getting bigger. So at some point, the seller at some point might just say, the heck with it, I don't need to do this anymore, I'll just pay my tax. Or maybe it's a situation where something else has happened in gifting or estate planning issues, but people are always growing. And if you've got the inability to get where you want to go without having a huge tax, you're not going to do it. And during this recession, one of the things that people don't really understand is with a primary residence, if you lost it to foreclosure, you had some tax relief that's there. But I'm sure you had people that lost properties through foreclosure, investment properties. You don't have that. So typically people think, well, gee, 1031 is just allowing these people to not pay their taxes while they're growing these things. But there are situations where we've had great clients, great people, through no fault of their own, something happens in the economy, and they end up losing a property. And not only do they lose the property, they think, well, gee, I lost everything there. Not only do they lose that, they have a tax exposure. And if there are phantom gains, if the debt exceeds the basis on that property, the debt's the sales price. And we've had many exchanges where we're doing exchanges pre-foreclosure. They'll give us the property, then it's foreclosed, and we'll carry the thing forward. And their choice is simple. They just say, well, gee, if it's foreclosed and I own it, I've got taxes, I get nothing, so I lose the property, I've got to pay to lose it. Or I can do an exchange, maybe come out of pocket roughly the same amount of money and go buy something through the exchange. So, it's one of those things where the tax exposure in that cycle where the government sees all this money that they're going to get, it's a one-time deal, and it's going to be on a reduced value because the property values are going to drop. Because
reduced value, reduced number of transactions.
So you look at it and say you got one cycle, but when you're building that exchange, you're carrying the basis forward. So there's lots of reasons to encourage the exchange. They don't have as much to deduct. The depreciation isn't on as great a number if they're doing exchanges. They pull money out of their pocket. It's the purchase price, much higher depreciation taken. So these things all work together, and they really, I think the problem is that politicians today are politicians. They haven't had to sit here and work and do these things, so they don't understand the full economics of it. They sit there and figure out what, you know, somebody in some academic circle figures is going to be the tax expense, when it's not at all accurate.
Right. Or they're, like you said, they're figuring what the deferral is. They don't think about, well, you know, if we eliminate the deferral, you're going to eliminate the number of transactions. I mean, I would say in the private client, we're probably 60 to 70%. There's an exchange involved in one side of the transaction, easily, and that's probably low. That's probably lower than this last couple years than we saw in the past. It's usually higher.
We figure 64% of real estate transactions are exchanges.
Have an exchange involved, yeah.
And if you look at that, think about a transaction. If you take the deferral away, you will have that capital gains tax rate. And we're in a world where not only are we looking at taking 1031 away, we're looking at increasing capital gains tax rates too.
So, right, we haven't brought that up yet.
So we haven't even talked about that whole piece of it. But I mean, it's going to hurt. It's going to sting, and you're not going to have people moving stuff. Moving is the critical thing. Market velocity. I mean, if you look at those transactions, when we had the market collapse, I said, look, we lost 90% of our business during that period of time. And these people said, well, gee, of course you did, because people didn't have gains. And I said, that's not at all it. No. They couldn't buy, they couldn't get financed, they couldn't move forward, so they're not going to give up the old thing. So every transaction that doesn't have, who's involved with that transaction? And last time I was in here, I think we talked about this. Yes. So I won't belabor the point, but you guys aren't getting paid, I'm not getting paid, title escrow is not getting paid, tax and legal aren't getting paid. I mean, we've got appraisers, I mean, inspectors,
and the industry is not growing. I mean, your owners are not expanding. They're not hiring more maintenance guys. They're not buying more equipment. They're not going to Home Depot as much. They're sticking with their existing units, and that's why I think, like you said, it's a one-time. Great, they're not getting the deduction. Okay, so maybe you're not going to get the deduction at all because they're not going to sell. Yeah. They're not going to move. They're not going to expand, and everything's going to slow down. Values are going to have a huge effect on values. When you're not having demand underneath, your values are going to come down. And it's just like it's the same we've run into a lot. It's a very short. On the tax return, hey, they just deferred this gain. Yeah. Boy, we could have put that in our pocket. Well, you couldn't, because they wouldn't have done that action with the rules that are in place. Exactly. So that's the part when from hearing this from you, it's, from our owners, I think it's time now to, get involved, because this is, I'm feeling this the first time I've really felt it, that there is a legitimate concern that this is, there's a high likelihood of this going through. I mean, can't put percentages on it because who knows what's going to happen in Washington, but I mean, this is, like I said, I've got clients that have made decisions this year just based on this alone. So I mean, they're talking this coming through June, July is when they... Yeah,
June, July, August. That's when they figure things are going to be proposed and in. Right. So we need to, the time to act is now, and the other piece of it is that we need to get this stopped, and if we're not going to get it stopped, right? It's the whole cry wolf thing. We've got to get word out to the people we work with, because they're going to have to get where they need to go, right, and plan on it. And one of the proposals contains the change in like kind, and it would be more similar in service and use. And the service, not the service, but the proposals, the politicians sort of feel that, well, the like kind requirement is confusing. Well, it's really not. I mean, if we're looking at real property, it's pretty clear. Any real property held for investments, like kind with any real property held for investment, and that's what gives people the ability to grow. Right. And also to preserve things. I mean, if you look at people that have had farm property forever, there are people that have had these farms for hundreds of years. And now at some point, maybe things change and they aren't going to farm anymore, but somebody else is going to farm. And well, they can't afford to sell the thing. I mean, they need to, in today's world, they've got a choice: sell, pay the taxes, which could be going up, or they do an exchange and go get something that's going to take care of them. And if you change that like-kind requirement, it's once again going to stagnate the market.
So do you see a chance of that getting changed and not the repeal? Is it all, are they kind of...
I don't think they're really breaking it into pieces.
They're not, okay. They're just going with the big hatchet and see what they can cut down.
Yeah, they might...
Got it.
Change, anything's on the table. I think if they say it might be a easier way, if they can just pass a change in it instead of elimination, that might be more palatable. But I just, imagine the stock market without IRA 401k money and people's ability to buy and sell things.
And self-directed and all that, yes.
I mean, it's one of those things where, no, gee, you can sell this stock, but you have to buy that same stock again.
Right.
I mean, it just doesn't work. And it just, you start with the rental house. And often it's your first house. Maybe, you buy it because that's what you can afford. Then you move out of it. And then you turn it into an investment, and then it booms, goes to a plex, goes to an apartment, goes flex,
and then we start going up and up and up. Yeah. What about on the state level, Oregon and Washington? Anything on the books on that? Are they kind of following the steps of the federal side?
I think right now, I mean, we battled that last time we were in here, so I think that'll, that's going to come back, because I don't think anybody keeps track of what's going on long enough to understand why things were shot down last time they were proposed, and seems like a lot of politicians are losing emails these days too. So I think so I just I expect those things will come up every so often, and it's just because they've got short memory and they're hungry. They want the revenues, and they don't understand that whole supply side stuff. I mean,
and my fear is you've got on the federal side, you see it on both sides. It's very easy then for the states to say, well, heck, there's support on that side federally. Even if they don't get it done federally, maybe it's our chance to go at it from a state standpoint. Again, Washington would be a big issue. Oregon's a big issue. I mean, there's so. What
we're seeing on the state level, and you're probably impacted a little bit coming in from different states.
Yes.
We're seeing clawbacks where Oregon's done it for a few years. And I think Oregon was maybe the first that did it, and the other states sort of look at, hey, that's a good idea. So what I mean by that is we used to have clients that would say, gee, I'm going to exchange out of Oregon, I'm going to move it into Washington, Nevada, Florida, someplace that doesn't have a state tax. I'll hold it for a couple of years, I'll sell it, and I'll save myself that 11%. And it used to work, but it doesn't work anymore. The state of Oregon's going to keep their hand in the cookie jar, and when there's a tax event in the future, they're going to get their money. And state by state, sort of seeing that and making that change, which that's okay. I understand. I mean, whatever gains were attributable to that state, why should
they not get it at that point?
Yeah, right. So I'm not opposed to that. As far as states,
that's been around for a while, though. It's just been how active have they been.
Exactly. So I mean, as far as states, I don't think the states at this point are, they're sitting back, and I mean, why should they be trying to do something when the federal government's doing all this stuff?
They'll follow along. And again, to get information on that, you can reach Dave at the email and website below and the phone number, and we'll also put up the link with the Association of Accommodators to where they can find their local, their national legislators, and get that information out, and let them know, the effect. Like we've said, a lot of them have never been involved in real estate, have no idea. They just look at a number and say, hey, we could have gotten that gain and it's deferred, and don't realize the impact and the number of transactions that are done because of 1031 exchanges and what that does to the market, pushing it forward.
Oh, definitely. And I just wanted to mention something. You were just talking about like real estate. Sort of a interesting statement. The National Cattlemen's Beef Association opposes 1031 repeal. And I mean, you look at because it supports long-term stability for producers. I mean, you think, okay, how does 1031, cattle, and we used to joke the like-kind requirement, we were talking about that earlier, but cows and bulls are not like-kind for 1031 purposes. And my wife would say, of course, the cow's more valuable than the bull is. But anyway, it's just one of those things where we've got support from many different associations, and as we were saying, the NAR's working to make some things, but they've got other issues too. But we all need to understand and work, and don't assume somebody else is going to take care of it for you. Now's the time to take action. And
what about are the financial advisors and the quote Wall Street behind? Are they behind this from the standpoint we'd rather have it? Is that going to fuel?
I asked somebody on the FEA's Government Affairs Committee the other day that question, and I don't think that they've really got a read on it. And I would expect that side needs to understand that at first they might think, hey, this is great, we're just going to have more money to play with.
Right.
But I think they need to understand, and as you know, we work with retirement accounts too, through our sister company. But so I really try to get it out to them. I'm trying to get in front of that community to say, as I said earlier, first it's it's us now, it's going to be you later.
Right.
And don't look at it as us and them situation. I mean, 1031 is the real estate world's ability to defer things and get liquidity. And if you take that ability to move stuff away, Wall Street's going to suffer too, and you're going to have less money, everything else, and it's cyclical. I mean, your investors, I'm sure, have a nice, broad, diverse portfolio of investments, and the better they're doing, the better we're all going to be doing, and so I would hope that world is going to look at it and understand that it's in their best interest to keep it going too. But
who knows?
Yeah.
Well, thanks again for coming. Sure. It was very informative. And again, that information is on the website. We'll have a link on our website. This is not one of the times, I think, for investor and owners to kind of sit back to see what happens. I mean, this is one I think the investor community, apartment owner community needs to be a little bit more proactive on this one because this is going to greatly affect values, your value of your building, your estate, and just the ability to continue to grow and expand. And again, we've heard this before. But this is really the first time, I felt that I can, sense it in our conversations over the 20 years, the first really time that it's like, wow, we're getting it from all sides. And this isn't something they're just throwing up and say, hey, we'll lay it on the table, we'll pull it back as a negotiation. Everybody's got it in their kind of chips, and that's a little disconcerting from in our industry.
I think the last time we were this concerned about it was the late, 90s with, was it 97?
Right.
The tax reform there. And at that point, the proposals with 1031 were elimination of the 45-day time period, which was good, but it was combined with a change in the like-kind requirement.
Okay.
And that's what was just going to be a really tough deal. And I wish 45 days would go away because I think it just puts good people in a bad spot. And and I understand if you want to put an end to the timelines. I mean, 1031, not as a code, but the exchange process has been around since 1921, and we've had changes over the years.
Right.
And the Starker case was sort of the one that ended up in a regional case here in Oregon, but that was the one that gave us timelines. It was an open-ended
set it up,
situation.
set the specifics.
Yeah, you've got this much time, 45 days, 180 days, and people ask me all the time, well, how'd they come up? I don't know how do you come up with 45 days and 180 days to get things done? I could see them maybe a year, but come on, 45 days. And then you look at the identification rules and all. I mean, it's just so
arbitrary. It's yes.
Well, yeah, I got an idea. Hey, let's do this.
Yeah.
So, but at that situation, or at that time in the the late 90s, with the ID period, I mean, I had a lot of brokers that said, gee, I'm for the 45 days. And from a practitioner perspective, I just see the people get stuck and frustrated and looking for ways around.
Right.
But I'm not saying you were this way, but I had brokers just saying, and I understand it too. They said, no, I like the 45-day ID period. I like it because it causes urgency, and otherwise the client's just going to be at the 170th day not knowing what they're going to do.
Right.
So it makes things happen. I can see that too. But anyway, I thank you very much.
45 is a little short, though. I mean, that part's a little short. But again, like we've said, this is there's information on our website. There's a link to today's website as well. I encourage everybody to take a look at that and talk to your congressman, your senator, because this again is not something to kind of wait back, because if it goes through, and it's going to be real hard to, once it goes, it's gone, it's going to be real hard to get back. And that's really the concern is, again, there's been rumblings about this for 20 years, but this is the first time that it's not tweaks, it's not this, it's everybody involved in Washington has this, is laying this one down. So a very big concern on our end. So
definitely.
Thank you again.
So if anyone out there's got juice with the politicians, please use it.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Good to see you again. Thanks.
Good to see you too.
All right, thank you.
Thanks for watching HFO-TV. To learn more about HFO, call or visit our website.